Imagine a world without clothes, without fabrics, without protection against the cold or the heat. This is how it all began. But how did the first humans transform raw fibers into garments that revolutionized the history of humanity? Before Christ, the first human societies had already mastered incredible weaving techniques. Fabric wasn't just a basic necessity, it was an innovation that shaped cultures, economies, and even wars. Today, we'll explore how this technology transformed the lives of our ancestors and paved the way for the modern world. Picture our earliest ancestors, huddled in caves, vulnerable to the harsh elements of nature. Now fast forward to the moment when someone, perhaps by accident, discovered that plant fibers could be twisted together to create something stronger, more flexible, and incredibly useful. This wasn't just a practical discovery, it was one of humanity's first technological revolutions. In the ancient world, thousands of years before Christ, civilizations from Egypt to China were creating fabrics so intricate and beautiful that some of their techniques remain mysteries to this day. The finest Egyptian linens were woven with threads so delicate they're almost impossible to replicate with modern machinery. Think about that. Ancient hands creating what our advanced technology struggles to match. Did you know that the oldest piece of fabric ever discovered is over 34,000 years old? Found in Georgia, not the American state, but the country at the crossroads of Eastern Europe and Western Asia, this ancient linen proves that textile technology is far older than we ever imagined. These weren't primitive attempts at covering the body, they were sophisticated innovations born from human ingenuity. This is the story of how a simple technology, the interlacing of fibers, changed everything. It's the story of how we went from vulnerability to resilience, from basic survival to artistic expression, from isolated communities to vast trade networks spanning continents. If you love history and want to unravel the mysteries of humanity's greatest innovations, like this video, subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind channel and don't miss a single episode. Join us as we thread our way through one of the most transformative technologies the world has ever known. It all began with natural fibers. The first humans discovered they could twist and braid strands of wool, flax, and even tree bark to create rudimentary fabrics. These early attempts were simple, yet revolutionary. Just imagine the profound impact of having a piece of clothing to protect yourself from the biting cold or the scorching sun. Long before the great empires of Rome or China, our ancestors were experimenting with the raw materials nature provided. They observed how sheep's wool could be pulled and twisted into threads. They discovered how certain plants, when soaked and dried, yielded fibers that could be manipulated into something entirely new. These early fabric makers were the original scientists and engineers of their time. Through patient trial and error, they found that some fibers were stronger when wet, while others needed to be processed when dry. They learned which plants produced the most pliable fibers and which animal hairs could be spun into the warmest threads. Picture a woman in the ancient world, sitting by a fire, carefully twisting fibers between her fingers, creating something that had never existed before. A human-made material that could be shaped, dyed, and adapted to countless uses. This wasn't just crafting. This was innovation that would change the course of human history. Did you know that the oldest fabric ever discovered is more than 34,000 years old? This remarkable find from Georgia, a country at the crossroads of Eastern Europe and Western Asia, is made from flax fibers. The ancient people didn't just throw together rough materials. They created a sophisticated textile that has somehow survived for millennia. This discovery proves that fabric technology is far older than we ever imagined. What's truly fascinating is how these early textiles weren't just functional. They were the beginning of personal expression. Even the most primitive fabrics show evidence of patterns and deliberate design choices. Our ancestors weren't just covering themselves. They were beginning to express identity, status, and creativity through what they wore. The journey from loose fibers to wearable fabric represents one of humanity's greatest leaps forward. It allowed our species to migrate to colder climates, to protect vulnerable skin from harsh environments, and ultimately to express the uniquely human desire for beauty and meaning in everyday objects. Over time, weaving emerged as a revolutionary advancement. The first looms, crafted from wood and bones, allowed humans to create stronger and more complex fabrics. This technique didn't just make clothing production easier. It opened up a world of possibilities for items like nets, bags, and even tents. Weaving was an art that demanded both skill and patience. Imagine the moment when someone first realized that by creating a simple frame, they could stretch fibers in one direction and then interlace other fibers across them. This breakthrough, perhaps one of the most underappreciated inventions in human history, transformed loose threads into sturdy cloth that could last for years. The earliest looms were remarkably ingenious in their simplicity. In ancient Egypt, weavers used horizontal ground looms, where threads were stretched between two beams anchored to the ground. In other parts of the world, vertical looms emerged, with weights made of clay or stone hanging from the threads to keep them taut. These early weavers had to count each thread carefully, planning their patterns with mathematical precision. What's fascinating is how these early weavers developed their craft without written instructions or formal training. The knowledge was passed down through generations, from master to apprentice, mother to daughter, father to son. Each region developed its own distinctive techniques and patterns, creating a rich tapestry of cultural identity through fabric. By 4,000 years before Christ, the Egyptians were creating linen so fine it was called woven air, fabric so delicate you could pull an entire dress through a finger ring. Meanwhile, in South America, ancient Peruvians were developing complex weaving techniques that modern textile experts still struggle to fully understand. Weaving transformed human society in profound ways. It created new forms of specialized labor. It fostered trade as communities exchanged their distinctive textiles. It even influenced language. Our modern conversations are filled with metaphors about weaving stories, threading ideas together, and the fabric of society. And consider this: without the development of weaving, later technologies like sailing ships would have been impossible. No sails, no extensive maritime exploration. No maritime exploration, no global trade networks. The humble loom, in its way, helped set the stage for the modern interconnected world. Weaving wasn't just a practical skill, it was often sacred. In many ancient cultures, goddesses were associated with weaving, like Athena for the Greeks or Neith for the Egyptians. The act of creating fabric was seen as a divine gift, a connection to the cosmic order itself. When you look at a woven fabric, you're not just seeing threads, you're seeing one of humanity's most profound technological and spiritual achievements. One of the greatest innovations was the creation of colored and patterned fabrics. The first humans discovered how to extract pigments from plants and minerals to dye their clothes. This didn't just add beauty to fabrics, it symbolized status and cultural identity. Imagine the power of a garment that told a story through its colors and designs. The discovery of natural dyes revolutionized the ancient world. Deep in forests and high in mountains, our ancestors experimented with berries, leaves, roots, and insects to create a palette of colors. The vibrant blue of indigo from India, the royal purple from tiny sea snails in the Mediterranean, the rich crimson from the madder root. Each color had its own complex process of extraction and application. Consider the ancient city of Tyre, famous throughout the classical world for its purple dye. This single color was so labor-intensive to produce, requiring thousands of sea snails to create just 1 ounce of dye, that it became reserved exclusively for royalty. In Rome, laws actually prohibited common citizens from wearing purple. The phrase, "born to the purple," still signifies royal birth today. In ancient Peru, textile artists used over 100 different shades in their elaborate fabrics, many of these colors so stable that they remain vibrant after 2,000 years. These weren't just decorative choices, they were sophisticated technologies requiring precise knowledge of chemistry, botany, and materials science. Beyond color, pattern-making transformed fabric into a powerful communication tool. The elaborate tartans of Scottish clans, the intricate kente cloth of West Africa, the detailed motifs of Chinese silk, each pattern carried specific meanings about family, region, status, and even spiritual beliefs. Before writing was widespread, fabric was a form of visual language, telling stories and preserving cultural knowledge. The technology of pattern textiles also led to innovative weaving techniques. The invention of the draw loom in ancient Syria allowed weavers to create incredibly complex designs. This technology was so valuable that it spread along the Silk Road, transforming fabric production from China to Europe. Perhaps most remarkable was how these textile innovations created global connections. The desire for particular dyes and fabrics established trade routes spanning continents. Civilizations that might never have interacted otherwise exchanged ideas, technologies, and cultural influences, all because of colored threads woven into meaningful patterns. So did you know that the oldest fabric in the world is more than 34,000 years old? If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button, share it with friends, and subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind channel for more incredible stories. And tell us in the comments, what do you think was the greatest innovation in the history of fabric? Was it the discovery of natural dyes, the invention of the loom, or perhaps something else we haven't covered yet? Your insights might just inspire our next video. Over time, clothes evolved beyond mere utility and became powerful symbols of authority. Kings, priests, and warriors wore luxurious and intricate fabrics to demonstrate their power. In some cultures, the color and type of fabric were so significant that only the elite could wear them. Clothing became a way to communicate hierarchy and status in increasingly complex societies. Imagine walking through an ancient city. Without a word being spoken, you could immediately identify who held power simply by the fabrics they wore. In ancient Rome, the purple-bordered toga, the famous toga praetexta, was reserved exclusively for magistrates and free-born noble youth. To wear it without proper rank wasn't just a fashion faux pas, it was a crime punishable by law. The connection between fabric and power runs through virtually every ancient civilization. In imperial China, only the emperor could wear the magnificent five-clawed dragon pattern embroidered in gold thread on brilliant yellow silk. Court officials had their own distinct dragon patterns, with the number of claws precisely indicating their rank. Anyone caught wearing a fabric above their station faced severe punishment, sometimes even death. Perhaps nowhere was fabric more tightly controlled than in medieval and Renaissance Europe. Sumptuary laws dictated exactly who could wear which fabrics, colors, and styles. Velvet, silk, and fur were often restricted to the nobility. In 14th century England, for instance, only those with annual incomes above a certain threshold could legally wear gold cloth or purple silk. These laws weren't just about maintaining social hierarchy. They were attempts to make power instantly visible. What's fascinating is how different cultures used different signifiers of status. In ancient Peru, the Inca nobility wore cambi, an incredibly fine cloth woven from vicuña wool, fiber so rare and difficult to harvest that it was worth more than gold. Meanwhile, in West Africa, the elaborate patterns of kente cloth were restricted to royalty, with specific patterns reserved exclusively for the king. Religious power, too, was expressed through fabric. The elaborate vestments of high priests in ancient Egypt, the golden threaded garments of Buddhist monks in high positions, the specially woven ceremonial attire of Mayan shamans, All used textile technology to create visible manifestations of spiritual authority. Even color itself became a form of power. When a new red dye called cochineal arrived in Europe from the Americas in the 16th century, it was so vibrant and color-fast that it quickly became associated with wealth and influence. Cardinal red, a specific shade derived from this dye, became literally synonymous with religious authority in the Catholic Church. The most brilliant aspect of clothing as power is how it created a visual language everyone understood. In societies where most people couldn't read, fabric instantly communicated who held authority, who belonged to which group, and who commanded respect. It was like wearing your resume, your family tree, and your bank statement all at once. A technology of power that worked without saying a word. Today, fabric technology has evolved to incredible levels, but ancient techniques remain the foundation of everything we use. From hand looms to industrial machines, the legacy of the first weavers is present in every piece of clothing we wear. And this makes us wonder, what will the future of fabric technology look like? The next time you put on a cotton t-shirt or a wool sweater, take a moment to consider that you're participating in a technological tradition that stretches back tens of thousands of years. The basic principles of weaving, the interlacing of warp and weft threads, haven't fundamentally changed since our ancestors first discovered them. What has changed is the scale, speed, and complexity of production. Even our most cutting-edge textile innovations draw inspiration from ancient wisdom. Modern waterproof fabrics mimic the natural water resistance that ancient peoples achieved by treating wool with lanolin. The strongest synthetic fibers were developed by studying the structure of silk, a material that ancient Chinese weavers were working with more than 5,000 years ago. In remote villages across the globe, artisans still practice textile techniques that have remained virtually unchanged for centuries. In the highlands of Peru, weavers create intricate patterns using backstrap looms, simple devices tied to a tree on one end and the weaver's body on the other. In Japan, a handful of master craftspeople still produce traditional indigo-dyed fabrics, using methods dating back to the 8th century. These aren't just quaint cultural practices, they're living museums of technological knowledge. What's remarkable is how many modern textile innovations were actually known to ancient civilizations. The ikat technique, where threads are dyed before weaving to create complex patterns, was independently invented in cultures across Asia, South America, and Africa thousands of years ago. The sophisticated twill weaves we associate with contemporary denim were being produced in China during the Han Dynasty, more than 2,000 years ago. The Industrial Revolution may have transformed fabric production from a handiwork to a mechanical process, but it didn't change the fundamental techniques. The flying shuttle, the spinning jenny, and the power loom, inventions that sparked modern manufacturing, were all based on accelerating and scaling up processes that ancient weavers would have immediately recognized. Even the future of fabric technology draws heavily on ancient precedents. Today's smart textiles, fabrics that can monitor your health, harvest energy, or change color, are the culmination of a journey that began when our ancestors first twisted plant fibers together. Self-healing fabrics being developed in laboratories build upon the natural elasticity and strength that ancient weavers prized in their materials. Perhaps the most profound legacy of ancient fabric technology is how it changed human potential. Clothing allowed us to inhabit nearly every environment on Earth, from frozen tundras to scorching deserts. It enabled specialized roles in society, from warriors in protective gear to healers in ceremonial attire. It created the conditions for human culture to flourish beyond mere survival. As we look to the future, to fabrics that might protect us on other planets, that might generate their own energy, or that might adapt to our needs in real time, we're building on knowledge painstakingly gathered over thousands of years. Every stitch, every weave, every textile innovation connects us to those first ingenious humans who looked at raw fibers and imagined something more. The technology of fabric and clothing stands as one of humanity's greatest achievements. From the first braided fibers to today's smart textiles, this innovation has transformed how we live, protect ourselves, and express our identities. Have you ever stopped to consider what the world would be like without clothes? Our journey through the history of textiles reveals something profound about human ingenuity. What began as a simple survival adaptation, protection from the elements, blossomed into art, cultural expression, and eventually global industries that connect millions of people. Fabric technology isn't just about what we wear, it's about who we are as a species. Creative problem solvers who transform the raw materials of our environment into tools for survival and self-expression. Think about how different human history would have been without fabric. Without clothing to protect us from cold, humans might never have migrated into northern regions. Without sails made of sturdy cloth, seafaring exploration would have been severely limited. Without the complex social systems that developed around textile production and trade, our civilizations might have taken entirely different paths. The humble thread, that simple twisted fiber, quite literally stitched together the tapestry of human history. From the elaborate royal garments of ancient kings to the standardized uniforms of modern workers, from the sacred vestments of religious ceremonies to the everyday comfort of your favorite t-shirt, textiles tell the story of our shared human journey. And this story continues to unfold. Today's researchers are developing fabrics that can generate electricity from movement, materials that can heal themselves when torn, and textiles that can adapt to changing temperatures. The ancient technology of weaving now intersects with cutting-edge fields like nanotechnology, bioengineering, and computer science. What might our ancestors, twisting plant fibers by firelight, have thought of fabrics that can monitor your heart rate or change color with the touch of a button? Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of fabric technology is its universality. Every human culture, without exception, developed textile traditions. Despite our many differences, the need to create and wear fabric united us in a shared technological journey. One of the few truly universal human experiences. So the next time you put on your clothes, take a moment to appreciate that you're participating in one of humanity's oldest and most significant technological revolutions. That simple act connects you to countless generations of innovators who transformed loose fibers into the fabric of civilization itself. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind channel to follow more content about history's greatest innovations. What other ancient technologies would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep wondering about the remarkable innovations that shaped our world.